Discharged from hospital. What was the first thing you did?
McDonald's.
And how was that?
Fantastic.
Was that what you've been waiting for all that time while you were recovering?
Well, no, because while I was recovering, I didn't actually know where I was at. By the time the light bulb in the head came on and stuff, then I was discharged pretty quickly thereafter. So the team doctor was there looking after me the whole time in the hospital, and so it was mandatory that we go to McDonald's afterwards.
Fair enough. And how is the recovered body now?
Yeah, fantastic.
How's the training going?
Good.
Does it take you? I've read previously that you're having to start the season a bit earlier in terms of your preparation and training, though.
Not much earlier. Normally, just earlier than last year. Normally, I'd start at Paris-Nice anyways. Last year, I started at Catalonia, but this year, I'll start back again at Paris-Nice. I think it'd be good to have a few races under the belt before I get to my objective races of the Basque Country in California.
In terms of, we just had the team presentation, RadioShack-Nissan. Does it feel like a new team to you? There's so many familiar faces.
No. It feels like the same team as last year, just a little more well-built.
And then, I mean, we had a lot of team leaders on the stage for the presentation.
Yes.
How is that
difficult for you guys? Yes.
Yeah, exactly. But how is that going to work? I mean, it's going to be difficult for you guys, I guess.
No, it's never difficult. Everybody, when you've seen some of the dynamics in different teams with multiple leaders, it's really not a problem. I know Clody will race for the Schleck brothers if they're good. I know it raced for me and vice versa. So it's very easy to see in cycling who's the best. Sometimes it's a little more complicated, like during the Basque Country last year where Clody and I were both very close to each other. It was difficult to see who was better. But in the end, you saw where the team worked really well together, and we still won. The Basque Country won too. So it's as long as the riders do their jobs, as long as they're not selfish, then it's never an issue, and it's very easy to see who's best on the team.
Sure, that's true. And I guess the same kind of situation at Tour of California.
Yes, exactly. California went the same way as the Basque Country, with Levi and I going 1-2 versus Cody and I going 1-2 at the Basque Country.
Next season, or this season rather, 2012, you're going to be going head-to-head, I guess, in California with against Levi. How is that? Is that something that you thought about or talked about with him?
Oh yeah, for certain it's going to come up. There's no doubt about it. It's going to be a goal of Levi's to win California, and it's going to be a goal of mine to win California. So we're going to butt heads there at some particular point in time. But it's no different than with any other rider. We're just riders that have been teammates. But you have to remember, I've raced with a lot of different teams throughout my career, and so it's not the first time I've come across this.
And how do you kind of prepare for that situation?
Same way I would without preparing for that situation, just arrive at Tour of California with the best form possible. The only difference is now is, of course, I know Levi very, very well in terms of what tactics he may or may not employ, but
vice versa as well.
Yeah, and vice versa as well. One would hope. You'd have to ask him that question.
Sure. Is that going to be the number one aim for the season for you personally, the Tour of California?
Tour of California and the Tour de France absolutely will be very on the same level. Arrive with the best form.
We spoke to Levi about a month ago on Cycling News, and he said it is tricky though to peak for those two races. So for example,
yes.
you see Andy Schleck is there or thereabouts at Tour of California, but some days he's way off the pace.
I think it was very difficult to do California so close to the Tour de France. Yes, it is a problem. I would agree with that. I've seen that with Levi, and I've felt that myself too last year. It is very difficult to carry the form from California into the Tour de France.
But you still think it's possible to do both in as close as possible?
When I crashed out of the Tour, I felt very strong. I never felt like I was underpowered. Certainly, I was 12th or 13th on GC when I crashed out, but I was really 4th or 5th amongst the actual GC players in the Tour de France. So, yeah, I believe I achieved it, but it's not easy. You have to stay very mentally focused, because when you stay that focused for California, the 5 weeks before California starts, and then the week of California, there's a lot of stress during the race and stuff, you really want a mental break afterwards, and so you have to make sure that you don't take that break longer than what could affect your Tour de France hopes later. So it's very difficult to do. You have to stay focused for 3 months.